it beats us up when our emotions are ignored or dismissed. Indifference is really painful, and it's rejection. Indifferences might make us protest it, get louder, try to get our point across sometimes. But for a lot of us, when that doesn't work, we stop sharing, we close off. What is the point of sharing emotions with somebody that can't acknowledge your feelings, or worse, says that you shouldn't have them? And it can make us feel really unlovable at our core to be so unseen and really wish that we knew how to move on. Emotional neglect is cruel and it's subtle, it's difficult to pin down, and it hides in plain sight because we really live in a gaslighting culture. There's so much fear, and fear leads straight to control and then to gaslighting, which is this misguided attempt to smother out fear and to, make it not exist. I felt unlovable a lot growing up. It's a really common symptom of emotional neglect. And it made me cling to people like a barnacle if they showed the littlest bit of interest in me. Good timing, man. My gratitude knew no bounds. I was devoted forever. And feeling unlovable also made me oblivious to the need to protect myself. I didn't know how to qualify people. I didn't get to know them to see if I liked them. And actually, I couldn't even imagine not liking everyone. I've always found people endlessly fascinating. And because my nervous system expected abandonment because of my childhood trauma, when people made me feel anxious, instead of understanding that as a signal, as a warning from my body, I would work harder to try to win them over. Like with cats, it's such a triumph to win their affection. It really means something about how safe and nurturing you are when a cat is devoted to you. And that's kind of how I was with people. Like, I think it set me up to be this unwitting and even eager participant in many one-sided relationships. One person who made me really anxious, who was unfriendly and wouldn't smile, I actually made it my goal to get this person to smile, and I wanted to win him over. I thought maybe subconsciously that this unlovable part of me would be fixed if I could win him over. And we ended up having a really significant relationship, and I felt so loved, and it did feel like bliss for a while. That's the really tricky thing about hot and cold relationships. When we get the attention that we lost, or we gain attention that we didn't have, it gives us this neurochemical high, and it turns a person into an addiction. They're this unpredictable slot machine that might make our dreams come true or fix our childhood wounds. And maybe you can relate to that, like being love bombed and then emotionally neglected. And by the time you figure out the person cannot be emotionally present or can only do that intermittently, you feel miserable and ignored, and you've already planted the flag in the relationship. And so you don't want to give up on it. At least that's what happened to me. Let me help you. Let me help you get up there. There you go. And initially learning about attachment made it worse, even though I thought it was all getting better because I was so convinced that now I knew how to fix people. I understood that their behavior came out of their trauma, and it gave me so much compassion and also this sense of responsibility. I was sure that all I had to do was show up and offer secure attachment behaviors, because we know attachment can heal in a couple of years. And then the person would heal from their trauma, and voila, rainbows and unicorns would shoot out of all derrieres. I was so oblivious to how very real personality disorders like narcissism are, how very real exploitation is, how very powerless I was, and how I was really re-traumatizing myself in terrible ways. And that was the trap of my own insecure attachment. If I had been secure, I would have known that hot and cold behavior disqualifies people from getting your energy. I would have known it was my own attachment trauma that kept me hooked into trying to build close relationships with people who didn't have the capacity to provide emotional safety. And not only did they lack the capacity, when I expressed hurt, they might not be able to apologize. They might see my feelings as an attack. They might think I was trying to control them by not getting over it and by making a big deal out of nothing. And they might lash out more to avoid that shame and try to punish me for the shame that they were feeling, which is a good sign that you're in a relationship with a narcissist or someone who has a very low window of tolerance for overwhelming shame. So I expressed my hurt over their sucky behavior less because the consequences were steep, and I walked on eggshells more. and got more emotionally isolated and turned into the world's best doormat. And that wasn't all that bad. I did feel proud of how much I gave, how hard I tried. I gave everything I had. And you know, there was a degree of self-righteousness in that sometimes, but mostly it just hurt. And the pain felt like a beautiful sacrifice. And I was grateful for how much I was learning about love, which is evidence that emotional neglect warps our thinking. And even if you can't pinpoint when emotional neglect happened or what happened, it's easy to identify when we have been emotionally neglected because of the outcomes. If we experience it in childhood, it guarantees that we're more likely to carry it throughout our life in the form of depression or anxiety or fear or terror or loneliness or a sense of difficulty with stress or self-regulation. And it makes us much more likely to fall prey to love bombing. We might feel uneasy getting close to people or have a hard time trusting others and prefer not to rely on anyone or let them get too close. Or like me, you might look for signs of rejection and abandonment, like Sherlock Holmes. You know, emotional pain is really common for survivors of trauma, and those are the outcomes. And everything I just described is a symptom of insecure attachment. And you've probably heard a lot about attachment styles, you know, when you're looking at the general 4-quadrant attachment types. There's secure down in the lower left, and that's what this channel is devoted to strengthening. And then there's the 3 types of insecure attachment. You have the anxious, the disorganized, and the avoidant. And the 4 quadrants can hold a very wide spectrum of emotional difficulties from mild to hot. And they often group anxious attachment with codependence, but it can also fly out to borderline. And disorganized attachment tends to be paired with unresolved trauma, PTSD, and it can fly out to dissociative identity disorder. And avoidant attachment is the quadrant where we also tend to find narcissism and psychopathy and sociopaths, you know, people who practice exploitation and betrayal with smiles on their faces and suck in people like charismatic black holes. And that style is the least likely to heal, the least likely to seek therapy, the least likely to continue therapy if they start it, the least likely to move into secure attachment. And a clue that someone has not healed from avoidance, even if they say they have, is that they may brag about their independence and call other styles demanding or needy. Also, people ask, where does CPTSD fit into all of this? And in my opinion, because attachment wounding is trauma-based, you know, mild, medium, or hot, from early childhood, another way of describing those other 3 quadrants of insecure attachment, all the forms, is CPTSD or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So heavy stuff, but I'm only talking about this to get to the good part, which is how we heal. And I know from personal experience that the research phase is very important. And if that's where you're at, take note about Debbie Mirza. She wrote The Passive Aggressive Narcissist. She also wrote, I think it was her second book, Worthy of Love. It's a masterpiece. She has beautiful meditations, and she's someone that you might not be as familiar with as like Ramani, Dr. Ramani Darsvala. So when we've been emotionally neglected, or we have the signs, we carry the signs of that, what we missed was simple, and that's attunement, that sense of somebody getting you, getting what you're feeling, you know, you're vibing with someone, you're in the same emotional rhythm, and you can build this deep ongoing connection where you're both sharing and responding to each other's feelings. And it's all about being totally there for someone as they share what they're going through, attunement is, without expecting them to be somewhere else and without trying to fix their feelings or gaslight their feelings. You're just understanding that where they are makes sense and communicating that. And attunement is how we make sense of our world. Receiving attunement is how we feel close to people. And all healthy relationships have it. And all unhealthy relationships lack it. And when we lack it, it's like relationally, we're trying to turn on that power switch when there's a power outage, and it just leaves us in the dark because nothing happens. And the silence gets more profound, and we can feel increasingly isolated. And over time, this shapes our nervous system. It conditions us to brace for insecurity and to disconnect. And I've been in this place a lot. And I thought as soon as I learned about attachment, like I said, that it would be smooth sailing. But I was wrong, even though I learned about attachment really early on because my mom's a psychologist who specializes in attachment repair between couples using emotionally focused therapy, EFT. So I got an unusual amount of exposure for a non-therapist. And I took a lot of healing attachment classes. I watched all the videos, read all the popular attachment books, even asked my boyfriend to practice with me. And we found a therapist who also specialized in attachment repair in EFT. And I read a lot of studies on attachment. I learned a lot of techniques for deepening attachment security. And eventually, it was internalized enough, and I'm so passionate about it that I started teaching attachment and facilitating couples and practicing secure attachment conversations using the Building a Lasting Connection system that my mom co-developed. And many very cool, deep, wonderful bonding connected things happened. And I also saw a lot of patterns in people's pain. And it didn't fix my own internal wounding because attachment's interpersonal, and knowing about it does not shift it. We're really impacted by the people that we're rubbing up against. And people have different capacities to show up. And to repair attachment, you have to experience security over and over until your nervous system begins to expect it, begins to expect to be treated well. And security has a complex set of requirements. So I studied this topic pretty obsessively for about a decade, and I didn't experience really profound shifts until a few things happened that were all interrelated. One is that my data was mined and my purchase history was uncovered, and my screen offered me a delicacy, a 752-page textbook that some Harvard smarties described a meditation for healing attachment in, and I'm very grateful. Praise the cookies for that. And also, instead of viewing one-directional relationships as compassionate, I now became allergic to mistreatment. That was the second thing that happened. Allergic to all the people that are take and not give. And I had some painful exploitation that taught me some discernment and made me more capable of really prioritizing people who could be in reciprocal relationships, who knew how to be from the get-go. So I began accepting people where they were at, believing them when they showed me who they were, instead of thinking, I know about attachment, we'll fix this. And I reduced my investment in relationships that touched and awakened my attachment trauma, to use a Bonnie Badenoch term, touched and awakened, instead of triggered. She's another person you might want to take a note about. She's really remarkable. So I'd remind myself, you can't go to the hardware store for milk, change your expectations, get realistic about this person. And of course they did, the hurtful thing. This is the type of person they are. And it saved me from a lot of disappointment, not all of it, but it reduced the sting. And the third thing is, I used to feel drawn to prove my value to people who seemed indifferent to me. And now I only put energy into people who have the willingness and the capacity to offer the 10 keys of attachment security to the people who they are closest to day in and day out. Because you'll notice a lot of the covert narcissistic types appear to be saints in public, that they are dismissive of their inner circle. And I prioritized relationships with people who, like me, don't struggle to show up and who want to apologize and get back into harmony if they miss the mark. And that doesn't mean that all of these people have security, or that I had security because I could give it, but it was no struggle for them to authentically provide these 10 keys of secure attachment. And these also come out of this textbook, but I combined a couple of their lists and split up one, so my numbers are different than theirs. But here's what they are. Number one, the person is able to be physically present, genuinely accessible. Number two, they're consistent in their way of being. Number three, they're reliable. You can count on them to be with you in the ways you need. Number four, they're interested in your thoughts and feelings. Number five, they're protective. They make you feel safe and watched out for. Number six, they're attuned to your needs and behavior, your internal state. Number seven, they're soothing and reassuring. They can give you comfort in just the right ways when you're upset. And especially if you're upset with them, because that's where you really learn about a person's capacity to be empathetic and caring. Number eight, they're delighted by you. You get that sense they genuinely like you. Number 9, they help you understand your feelings and remind you that your feelings make sense, and they support you to explore new things and let you know that they believe in you. And so that encouragement for inner exploration is, the 9th, and the 10th is the encouragement for outer exploration. And I practiced all of these things. And if you practice all of these things, the intensity and the duration of whatever you're facing is going to diminish until it's replaced by a secure nervous system. And I will do the attachment healing meditation with you at the end of this video, a watered down version, or you're welcome to find someone else to do it with you now that you know about it. But let me back up and tell you a little bit more about why this meditation is so special and why this method works. And I'm not affiliated with these folks, but I've used the 3 pillars model a lot with my clients and with myself. And so some background, this came out in 2016, this book. It's called Attachment Disturbances in Adults, Treatment for Comprehensive Repair. And it outlines how to repair an attachment styles, like how to literally move somebody from insecurity into security as measured by the AAI, the Adult Attachment Inventory. And this model is based on 3 pillars of collected attachment data from all over the world, which they spent a chunk of the book summarizing until they distilled it into these 3 pillars in this one unified strategy. So one pillar uses IPF meditation as the focal point for repairing attachment wounds. And IPF stands for ideal parent figures. And you imagine yourself as a young child with caregivers who are ideally suited to you in that very moment. And you start giving your brain imaginary supportive emotional experiences to amplify the support that you've received throughout your life from your real caregivers and teachers and mentors. And this isn't, meant as a replacement for the people who have been in your life. It doesn't discount all the care that you've offered or how genuinely someone has loved you. The point of making them parents and yourself as child is to imagine yourself in this dependency relationship that's close, one where it's easier to sense your need for care and it's easier to rely on someone. It's also meant to fill in these emotional gaps created by hardship and trauma and neglect. And if you think about how athletes can use the imagination to train and to strengthen their muscles, literally, you just sense that it works. It's that you're training in this way. And an important part of the guided meditation is that it's conversational. It's this back and forth collaboration between the participant and the facilitator. And that's Annie snoring. The participant deeply relaxes. They imagine themselves as a young child having vivid, nurturing experiences with these ideal parent figures. And they embody the 10 ingredients of attachment security that I just told you. And the facilitator will amplify and guide each experience. And what I love about this is that it supports the development of secure attachment, but you do it without rehashing any traumatic memories or trauma, which is actually really important because many people, especially those with disorganized attachment, are re-traumatized for talking about their trauma. So I remember someone close to me telling me once that it took days for her to recover from therapy. And maybe that happened to you too. She said that her symptoms got worse and worse month after month, and she was feeling worse about herself, but she was so committed to getting over her problems. And wanted them so much to stop ruling her life. And so she would keep going to therapy, even though it made her feel awful, because she'd heard that if she felt her feelings, that would process them and make them go away. And she was just desiring that. She needed it. And I wish that I'd known that talking about trauma is contraindicated with disorganized attachment back then. I would have told her, stop talking about your trauma and give your therapist this textbook and tell your therapist to train in the 3 pillars model. And yes, this model will allow you to skip unearthing of the painful past. And if you're here with me and we're only concentrating on wonderful, good images, because I offer meditations on this channel, you should know that if those good and wonderful imaginary childhood images bring up painful feelings or memories or painful comparisons to the reality that you lived through, you should stop listening and get one-on-one support, one-on-one emotional support to do it from a warm professional that can really slow down the process, amplify the good feelings, help you get unstuck, and make sure you're not touching and awakening trauma that you might not even remember. especially if it occurred before you were the age of 5. And I know people say, but I don't remember it, so it doesn't matter that it happened to me. But we have layers of memory, and our nervous systems remember and retain the feelings without having episodic memories to put the feelings in context, because the hippocampus doesn't develop until we're about the age of 5, which is what gives us episodic memories to attach to our feelings. And think about it. We don't remember the moments we learned to walk or talk, but we still remember how to walk and talk, even though that happened before we were 5. So that's one of the pillars. It's the meat of attachment repair, this meditation. It's where you practice Dan Siegel's 4 S's: safe, seen, soothed, secure. And to jump into just one of those, feeling soothed from Dan, he says, requires peace. He's very acronym happy. The happy psychiatry professor at UCLA School of Medicine loves acronyms. And he's also the founding co-director of the Mindful Awareness Research Center. So how do you feel soothed by the acronym PEACE? You experience presence, engagement, affection, calm, and empathy. And if you need more Dan Siegel in your life, and most people do, you might listen to the Neurobiology of We, or read The Developing Mind, or Parenting from the Inside Out. He has so many incredible resources. And actually, Bonnie Badenoch studied with him for quite a while. So back to attachment repair. What's pillar 2 and 3? You're probably dying to know. They're a lot less complex. Pillar 2 will work on strengthening your metacognition, or mentalizing capacity, which is a lot like Vipassana meditation. You become aware of and begin to understand your own thought processes. And pillar 3 provides a practical understanding of the nature of collaborative, secure relationships by asking you to practice showing up in a collaborative way. So that includes practicing showing up when you say that you'll show up, not only physically, but being emotionally present, and especially practicing collaboration when your nervous system might be hijacking you and telling you it's time to fight and get dismissive or controlling, or flight and isolate, or like avoid eye contact, or freeze, like collapse and shut down, and fawn, where you might suck up to someone or praise them or give them gifts to try to restore emotional safety, or use addictive self-soothing behaviors like an addiction to work, or to screens, or to alcohol, or to exercise. And personally, I'm a freezer, and I can retreat into books for days. And I remember one of my elementary teachers writing on my report card, she was worried because of how much time I read that I wouldn't even go to recess to play with the other kids. And she wanted me to read less. But if she had seen what was happening at home, she would know I was sheltering, that I was creating this mental place of emotional safety. And it was the wisdom of my nervous system to retreat into books when I didn't have better resources. And we can trust our nervous systems to choose the best option we have available to us to soothe. And my tendency to freeze has not only blessed me with books, but it made it easy for me to get into meditation. I've done it for many, many, many years. And, I've even sat still for 2 hours a day for a year doing meditation, and it brought a lot of peace. But I can tell you from all of that meditation that 2 hours a day wasn't remotely as powerful as the experiences that I've had with 20 minutes of 3-pillar IPF meditation that completely rejuvenated me, that brought me energy and clarity and motivation. And you want that. That's why I'm doing this channel. Dipping into secure attachment gives you access to your personal power. Dan Siegel also pointed out that the outcomes of meditation and secure attachment overlap. If you're secure, or if you're a long-time meditator, you'll have these 9 characteristics: bodily regulation, attuned communication, emotional balance, response flexibility, empathy, insight, fear modulation, intuition, and morality. So that's a good self-test to find out if your attachment style is secure and insecure. Ask yourself, is my body regulated? Can I really attune to the person I'm communicating with? Do I feel emotionally balanced? Am I flexible and able to respond to things in different ways to fit the situation as it changes? Do I have empathy for the humans, the animals, nature, the life that surrounds me? Do I have insight into why things are happening the way that they are? Am I able to modulate my fear so that it doesn't take me hostage or make me lose access to my empathy? Do I have access to intuition, meaning the right side of the brain, the gut feeling that can understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning? Is my morality, my goodness online? Am I honest? Do I treat others with respect? Do I help those in need? Do I choose the right, to borrow a phrase from Sunday school? The other amazing thing about the 3 pillars model and IPF meditation is, number one, that it works. And if you've been studying attachment for a long time, you know that that's really rare. There are a lot of healing attachment programs that don't have any formal research outcomes. And this method does, right? And so when it's done one-on-one, particularly with a trained therapist, it takes 35 to 50 hours or so to move from insecure to secure attachment. And that's according to the late Dan Brown and the way that they set up their study. So that's a long time when you're only doing therapy once a week and listening to the sessions daily between time. But it's a heck of a lot faster than a lifetime of anxiety, lifetime of disconnection from yourself or your purpose or that sense of wholeness. And also the research on the 3 pillars model shows a treatment effect size of 6.23, which is way higher than most therapies. Their effect size is usually around 0.8, I think. So, it's a profound difference. And I love also that it uses the AAI, the Adult Attachment Inventory, to prove that it works. So I'll link the textbook below, but fair warning, it's really dense and it's, made for psychologists and therapists. And you should know that I'm not one. I'm just passionate, like I said, about attachment and a voracious reader. So this information did transform my life and it transformed my coaching practice. And I took the author's training, one of the author's trainings on the model. But I am, not a therapist. I'm someone I'm a practitioner of the model. And I'm here on YouTube to offer you a taste test of the meditations so that you can use it to supplement your healing or decide if you want to go deeper in the model in whatever way is available to you. And there are a lot of ways to go deeper. You can get that textbook. You can find a therapist. You can tell your current therapist about it. A lot of therapists don't know about this because it just came out in 2016. I also made a free class that you can go through. You can do it on your own. You can do it with a friend. And you really might want to do it that way because it's a lot more powerful. Like I said, when that meditation is conversational back and forth and you're not going to get it from YouTube that way. You get boosted from the conversation. It's like being double bounced on the trampoline. And they will reinforce the secure experiences that you're sharing and help you work through blocks and deepen and amplify your feelings and process whatever's coming up. How they might double bounce you. They might, be with you in just the right way. And you might say that you notice your parents' warm eyes, and your facilitator might say, yes, really feel the warmth in their eyes when they look at you. Notice the way that they're being with you is just right. Notice how it feels in your body to receive care in just the way you need it. But if you don't have professional access, you can get a head start here, right? And my class is in the description. It's free, and it will tell you all the basics that you need for healing attachment with the 3 pillars method. You might also want to join my community of do-it-yourself IPFers, and we support each other in practicing this every day. Or you might want to join my next free daily IPF practice call where we'll do the process together. And I invite people who want to be coached through a live session with me on that call. So those are all ways that you can supplement strengthening attachment security if you don't have access to a trained professional to do this method. Okay. So now we're going to slow it down and do a sample of a basic IPF guided meditation. So you might begin by breathing in and slowly exhaling, perhaps closing your eyes if that feels comfortable. And with each breath, feeling yourself becoming more relaxed and more present. Today's focus is on the healing power of attunement, which is one of the 10 key ingredients for secure attachment. And the purpose of the meditation today is to help you experience emotional resonance and feel understood, and teach your nervous system that you can expect to be receiving a lot more of this. So you might relax your jaw, let it unhinge, let your out breath get just a little longer, noticing how the feelings of relaxation and ease bloom inside with each long out breath. And as you breathe, deeply visualize a space that represents safety and warmth, but a place that you've never been before. Perhaps it's a cozy room or a serene garden. It is a sanctuary. And now, imagine yourself being in this safe place as a young child. And more than seeing yourself as a young child, really begin to feel yourself as a young child. The ideal parents who will meet you here have an innate ability to sense your emotional state, whether you're joyful or anxious or sad, whatever you're feeling. And they will respond to your emotions with empathy and in precisely the right way for what you need in this moment, offering a response that makes you feel understood and brings you relief. You can move and shift however it unfolds, and know that they're not replacements for your real caregivers or anyone else that you know. And although they might have characteristics of your most nurturing relationships, the point of them being imaginary is that you can shift them and change them so that they can give you whatever you need in this moment. And now, can you imagine ideal parent figures entering your space? And you might notice right away that they are so warm, so safe. Notice how their eyes light up with joy as they see you. Feel their delight in simply being with you. There's nothing that you need to do. These caregivers embody attunement. They attend to you in just the right ways for you to feel like they get you and they treasure you. They notice subtle changes in your mood. They inquire with genuine concern and curiosity. Their questions are open-ended and they invite you to share about your feelings. And you can tell that they want to know. They listen intently, and their body language and the expression on their face really reflects their deep engagement with your experience and their deep care for your feelings. And they hold your feelings tenderly. And you might notice that their expressions are filled with unconditional acceptance. And notice how that open acceptance and affection impacts your state of mind. They're delighted to connect with you. And their unwavering presence is so comforting. They're present in just the right way. They're never unpredictable. They always offer safety and love in just the right way that you need in the moment. Validating your feelings, offering comfort, offering shared excitement, depending on what it is that you're expressing. And they demonstrate their attunement to you through their words, their actions, their way of being. They remember what you tell them about your likes, your dislikes, your fears, your dreams. And they use that knowledge to cater to your emotional and physical needs, making you feel seen and understood and protected on a profound level. And you can feel the comfort and the security that comes from this level of deep understanding. And it teaches you that your emotional world is important and deserving of attention. And your validation builds your self-esteem and encourages you to express yourself more freely, confidently. And you might imagine these ideal parents supporting you through a challenging situation in just the right way. It could be a personal dilemma or a small setback. And they provide not just solace, but also actionable advice that resonates with your emotional state, helping you to navigate the situation with a sense of being fully supported and understood. And as you continue to breathe deeply, let this feeling of being deeply understood and your feelings appreciated just fill you. This isn't just about feeling love. Notice that feeling understood at an emotional level is far more intimate and transformative. And notice how their attunement impacts you on a physical level. You know, the sensations, having this kind of support offer your belly, like the sensations in your throat, in your chest, in your face, in your heart. You might also notice a growing sense of confidence in your ability to connect with others, and even to discern when a connection will nourish you and when it's one you want to turn away from. To know that you carry this model of supportive and responsive care inside of you. And you can imagine being with them, and you might allow these feelings of safety and acceptance to wash over you, becoming part of your internal experience. Each moment, deepening your connection to these nurturing figures who are weaving their essence into the fabric of your being so that you can carry them with you and call on them. And this experience can begin to sculpt your internal world and build a community of safety and supportive resources within you so that you can draw on that emotional support whenever you want. And you might allow these feelings of safety and acceptance and attuned reassurance to expand, to cascade through you, to let your sense of safety and support really solidify. And you might notice that their consistent way of being with you supports the way that you relate to your friends and family. And as our session closes, you might gently begin to bring your awareness back to the present. Slowly wiggle your fingers and toes. Take a deep breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes. And you can, carry this warm reassurance with you, knowing that healing is not only possible, but it's also within reach. It's something that you can experience. Emotional balance comes from how well we've been nurtured and how well we've been attuned to. So it's so important. It's responsible for our sense of belonging, not only with others, but the sense of belonging that we have in our own lives. And, by enriching our internal community with these secure, attuned experiences, we really are equipping ourselves with the gift of personal power, energy, the energy to connect to your purpose and your people. So, if you found this helpful and you want to find out how to tailor it to your own attachment style, you're welcome to take my free class. It's linked in the description below. Or you're welcome to join my next free IPF daily practice call where we will do this process together. And if you'd like to ask a question, there's an email below where you can reach me as well. So I'll see you soon. Take care. And say goodbye, doggies.